Hey everyone, welcome back. Have you ever stubbed your toe
Yeah.
and suddenly you're right back in that childhood fight with your sibling,
Mm-hmm.
feeling all the same frustration and helplessness? That's
Mm-hmm.
your body holding on to past trauma.
It is.
And today we're going deep into how that actually works
Okay.
and even more exciting, how we might be able to release it. So
Yeah.
we're diving into an excerpt from
Okay.
Emotions versus Feelings, How Trauma Shapes the Body and the Path to Healing.
Interesting.
And what really grabbed my attention is that those aches, pains, or that persistent tension you feel
Mm-hmm.
could be signs of unresolved emotions or past trauma literally stuck in your body.
Oh,
Not just memories, but actual physical changes.
fascinating.
Yeah. So to help us unpack all this, we have,
I'm excited.
it's so good to have you here.
Thank you.
So let's start by kind of outlining
Okay.
the key concepts that we're going to be talking about today. We're going to delve into the difference between emotions and feelings.
Okay.
We're going to discuss how trauma gets stored in the body,
Mm.
and we're going to explore a potential healing technique called EFT, or emotional freedom techniques.
Right.
What's fascinating here is that we often think of trauma as purely psychological,
Yes. That's a common misconception.
but it has a profound impact on our physical well-being as well.
It does.
In a way, our bodies keep score even when our minds try to move on.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's break down what the source says about the difference between emotions and feelings.
Okay.
Because I think that's crucial for understanding how this stuck trauma takes hold.
I agree. So emotions are those immediate instinctive responses,
Okay.
like fear, joy, anger.
Mm-hmm.
They originate in the limbic system, particularly the amygdala,
Mm.
which is like our brain's alarm system.
So emotions are that raw, almost primal reaction.
Exactly.
Feelings are different, right?
They are. Feelings are how we make sense of those initial emotions. They involve higher level processing in the neocortex,
Okay.
where we integrate our thoughts, memories, and experiences. Think of it as the amygdala sending up a flare,
Okay.
and then the neocortex tries to figure out,
Yeah.
okay, what's that flare about? Is it a real fire or someone just having a bonfire at the beach?
I like that. So if my dog suddenly barks at the window,
Okay.
that jolt of fear
Yeah.
is the emotion.
Exactly. And then your feeling is what comes next.
Mm-hmm.
Annoyance if it's just the mailman. Relief if you are worried about an intruder. Or maybe even amusement at your dogs over protectiveness.
Right.
Same emotion, but different feelings based on your interpretation.
This is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because the source says that trauma messes with this whole emotion-feeling cycle.
That's right. Right when we
Mhm.
experience trauma,
Okay.
especially in childhood when our brains are still developing,
Yeah.
that amygdala, our alarm system,
Mm-hmm.
is way more active than the prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
Which helps regulate our responses. It's like having a super sensitive alarm that goes off easily and takes forever to shut off.
And the source really emphasizes that the developing brain is especially vulnerable.
Hmm.
Why is that?
A child's brain prioritizes survival. So when faced with a traumatic experience, it might suppress emotional processing as a way to cope.
Mm.
But that can lead to those stress hormones and traumatic memories getting stuck in the body, like the alarm keeps blaring.
Oh.
But no one's home to hear it, so the system just stays on high alert.
So you're saying these aren't just metaphorical scars.
No.
We're talking about actual physical changes as a result of trauma.
We are.
It's not just in your head.
Exactly, absolutely. The source digs into the science behind this.
Okay.
For example, trauma can actually reside in the fascia,
That's sure.
which is the connective tissue that runs throughout our entire body. It's like the scaffolding that holds everything together.
Okay.
And when it's tight and restricted from stress, it impacts our movement and even how we feel within our own bodies.
So fascia, how does that connect to the brain and the whole emotional side of things?
Well, think of fascia as this vast communication network.
It's full of sensory nerves that feed information back to the brain about our internal state, like where our limbs are in space.
Mm-hmm.
But when fascia is bound up with tension from unresolved trauma,
Okay.
it can distort those signals,
Yeah.
leading to things like chronic pain, clumsiness, or even a feeling of being disconnected from your own body, like your brain is getting static instead of a clear picture.
Okay, I'm starting to get a picture, literally.
Yeah.
But the source also mentioned the hippocampus.
Okay.
How does that fit into this?
The hippocampus is responsible for processing memories. But when trauma happens, especially in childhood, the hippocampus may fail to properly timestamp those traumatic memories.
What do you mean by timestamp?
It's like labeling a file with the date it was created so you know when it's from.
Okay.
But without that timestamp, the amygdala, our alarm system,
Yeah.
doesn't know if the danger happened yesterday or 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
It stays on high alert, ready to react as if the threat is still present.
Wow, that's unsettling. It is. This is why something as simple as a smell, a sound, or a certain situation can trigger an intense emotional and physical reaction
Okay.
that seems completely out of proportion to what's happening in the present moment.
So it's like your body is saying, hey, remember this.
Yes.
We need to deal with this now. But the brain can't differentiate between past and present danger.
Exactly. And because the original trauma wasn't fully processed, it can feel overwhelming and lead to those blindsided reactions you were talking about earlier. Like your toe sub turns into a full-blown emotional flashback.
Okay, so all of this is fascinating,
Right.
but it's also pretty terrifying. If trauma is literally stuck in our bodies,
Right.
how do we even begin to release it?
That's the big question, isn't
Is
it?
there any hope?
There is. And thankfully, the source offers a potential solution called emotional freedom techniques, or EFT.
Okay, EFT. To be honest, when I first heard about this,
Yes.
I was skeptical. Tapping on your body to release trauma.
Right.
It sounded a bit woo-woo, even to me.
I get it. It's definitely outside the box of conventional therapy.
But the more I read about it, the more intrigued I became.
Yeah. The source points out that EFT is like a shortcut to calming your nervous system,
Okay.
bypassing the need for years of traditional talk therapy to get to the root of the problem.
So for our listeners who are new to this, can you give us a quick rundown of how EFT actually works?
Of course, EFT combines gentle tapping on specific meridian points on the body
Okay.
with positive affirmations.
Meridian points.
These meridian points are energy pathways in the body, used in traditional Chinese medicine for centuries. The idea is that by tapping on these points, you're helping to release blocked energy
Okay.
that may be contributing to emotional or physical distress.
So it's kind of like acupuncture without the needles.
You got it.
But there's a mental component, too, with the affirmations, right?
The affirmations are key. They're positive statements designed to help reframe negative thoughts and beliefs associated with the trauma. It's about acknowledging the feeling while choosing to accept yourself despite it.
Okay.
Kind of like saying, I see you fear, but I'm not going to let you run the show.
I can see how that shift in perspective could be powerful, but how does the tapping actually work with the affirmations to release that deep-seated trauma? It still feels a bit mysterious to me.
It is pretty wild when you think about it. Remember how we talked about the amygdala, that alarm center in the brain?
Right.
Well, trauma keeps the amygdala in a state of hyperarousal, like a smoke detector going off constantly even when there's no fire.
Right. That makes sense. So how does tapping help?
EFT is thought to work by interrupting that stress response cycle.
Okay.
The tapping sends signals of safety to the brain, kind of a gentle reassurance that says, hey, it's okay, you can relax now. And as the amygdala calms down, the fight-or-flight response diminishes, and the body can start to return to a state of balance.
So it's like retraining your body's reaction to those old triggers.
Exactly. The source mentioned that EFT can help rewire neural pathways.
Okay.
Essentially, it's taking advantage of neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity. Okay, that's a big word. Can you break that down for us?
Imagine you're walking through a field of tall grass.
Okay.
At first, there's no path. But the more you walk the same route, the more the grass gets trampled down and a clear path emerges.
Okay.
EFT works similarly. By consistently practicing tapping and focusing on positive affirmations, you're essentially creating new, healthier pathways in your brain.
So you're literally changing the physical structure of your brain.
It really is.
That's incredible.
And the more you travel those new pathways, the stronger and more automatic they become. Those old fear and anxiety responses weaken because you're giving your brain a new way to respond.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But I know what our listeners are really thinking right now.
Yeah.
Does it actually work?
I understand the skepticism, but the research is quite promising.
Okay.
There's growing evidence suggesting that EFT can be effective for a wide range of issues, including trauma, anxiety, depression, and even chronic pain. It's not a miracle cure, but it can be a powerful tool for change.
That's really encouraging to hear. The source mentions some specific benefits of EFT.
Okay.
Can you walk us through those?
Certainly, EFT has been shown to help calm the amygdala, reduce the fight-or-flight response, release stored tension in the body, and even reframe negative beliefs associated with the trauma.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about the fascia holding onto tension?
Right.
EFT can help release that as well.
So it's not just about feeling better emotionally,
Right.
but also physically, it's treating the whole system.
That's what makes EFT so unique. It acknowledges the mind-body connection and offers a holistic approach to healing. And because it's relatively simple to learn
Uh-huh.
and can be practiced anywhere, it empowers people to take control of their own well-being.
Okay, before we go any further, I want to come back to those 6 core emotions we touched on earlier.
Okay.
It feels like understanding those could be really helpful when it comes to recognizing how trauma might be manifesting in our bodies.
Absolutely. Those 6 core emotions, happiness, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, and disgust, are like the basic building blocks of human experience. And how they show up in our bodies physically can give us clues about what needs attention.
So it's not just about what we're feeling emotionally,
Right.
but also how those emotions are expressing themselves physically.
Exactly.
Mm.
For example, unexpressed anger might manifest as tension in the jaw,
Oh,
shoulders, or even digestive issues.
okay.
Suppressed fear could lead to chronic anxiety, shallow breathing, or constantly racing heart. And sadness often shows up as a heaviness in the chest or a lack of energy.
Wow, I've definitely felt all of those at different points in my life.
Yeah.
I never really connected it back to specific emotions, though. I just thought I was stressed or had a bad day.
It's so easy to dismiss those subtle signals our bodies are sending us.
Yeah.
But learning to tune into those physical sensations can help us understand our emotions on a deeper level. It's like becoming fluent in your body's language.
Okay, so we're starting to see how trauma can get trapped in our bodies, how different emotions have physical manifestations, and how EFT might offer a way to release that stuck energy.
Right.
But I'm curious, have you seen real-world examples of EFT helping people overcome trauma in your own practice?
I have one client who comes to mind had been struggling with debilitating panic attacks
Okay.
stemming from a childhood trauma.
Wow.
They had tried traditional therapy, but it wasn't providing lasting relief.
So they turned to EFT. What happened?
We started working together using EFT to target the specific memories and emotions associated with the trauma. And within just a few sessions,
Good.
their panic attacks decreased significantly in both frequency and intensity.
Wow.
They were able to start engaging in activities they had previously avoided and felt a newfound sense of hope and empowerment. It was really remarkable to witness.
That's incredible. Do you have any other examples of how you've seen EFT work?
I had another client who had chronic neck and shoulder pain
Okay.
that hadn't responded to any traditional treatments. We explored the emotional roots of their pain through EFT and discovered that it was connected to a long-held pattern of over-responsibility and people-pleasing, stemming from their childhood.
So their physical pain was actually a reflection of their emotional state.
Exactly. By using EFT to release those patterns of emotional suppression and set healthier boundaries, they were able to experience a significant reduction in their pain levels. It was like their body was finally able to relax and let go.
These stories are so inspiring. It really highlights the power of addressing the underlying emotional causes of physical and mental distress.
It's a reminder that our bodies and minds are not separate entities. They're intricately interconnected, and true healing requires us to address both.
So if someone's listening to this and thinking, okay, EFT sounds amazing, I want to try it, where do they even begin?
That's a great question. The first step would be to find a qualified EFT practitioner.
Okay.
It's important to work with someone who is trained and experienced in this modality, especially when dealing with deeper trauma work.
So it's like having a trained therapist who also knows how to use these tapping techniques.
Exactly. A practitioner can help you identify the root causes of your trauma,
Okay?
create personalized tapping sequences that address your specific needs, and hold a safe space for you to process those often intense emotions that can come up.
That makes sense. It's like having a supportive companion to navigate those challenging emotional terrains.
Yeah, it is.
So for our listeners who are feeling inspired and want to explore EFT further, what are some good resources? Where should they start?
There are tons of great books out there.
Okay.
The EFT Manual by Gary Craig. The Founder of EFT is a classic. The Tapping Solution by Nick and Jessica Ortner is another popular choice that's very accessible.
And I imagine there's a wealth of information online as well.
Absolutely. The EFT Universe website is a fantastic resource,
Okay.
as is the Association for Comprehensive Energy Psychology. You can find articles, videos, and even directories of certified EFT practitioners on their websites.
And for those who are more visual learners, I bet there are plenty of videos on YouTube and other platforms that demonstrate the tapping techniques.
You're right. There are guided tapping meditations interviews with EFT experts and even tutorials for specific issues like anxiety, insomnia, or chronic pain.
Fantastic. We'll make sure to include links to all these resources in our show notes so our listeners can easily find them.
That's a great idea.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive. We've learned so much about how our bodies hold on to emotions and trauma, and we've discovered a powerful tool for releasing that stuck energy and reclaiming our well-being.
It's been a pleasure exploring this fascinating topic with you.
Before we sign off, is there any final thought or takeaway you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I'd just like to reiterate that healing is possible, no matter what you've been through. Your body is incredibly resilient, and there are tools and resources available to support you on your healing journey. EFT is just one example, and I encourage you to explore whatever resonates with you. The most important thing is to listen to your body, honor your emotions, and believe in your capacity to heal.
That's such a beautiful and empowering message. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to embark on your own journey of self-discovery and healing. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. So welcome back to the deep dive. If you're just joining us, we've been talking about how trauma can get stuck in our bodies.
Yeah.
And then we started talking about this really fascinating technique called EFT, Emotional Freedom Techniques.
Right.
Can you remind us a little bit about EFT and how it works?
So EFT combines tapping on meridian points on the body with positive affirmations.
Okay, so those meridian points are like those energy pathways.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They're energy pathways in the body that have been used in traditional Chinese medicine for centuries. And by tapping on them, we can help release blocked energy that's contributing to emotional or physical distress.
So you're not erasing the past, but you're changing how your nervous system is responding.
Yes, exactly. It's about helping your nervous system process those old experiences in a healthier way.
So that you can finally move on.
Exactly.
So for our listeners who are ready to give EFT a try, what are some practical ways they can incorporate it into their lives?
One of the simplest and most effective techniques is called the basic recipe.
Okay, the basic recipe. I like that.
Yeah, it's a great starting point for anyone new to EFT.
So walk us through the steps. What are the ingredients?
First, you need to identify the specific issue you want to address.
Okay.
It could be anything from stress at work to that knot of anxiety you get before a big presentation.
So instead of just saying, I'm stressed, I might say, I'm feeling overwhelmed by my to-do list.
Exactly. Be as specific as possible.
Got it.
Then you rate the intensity of your feeling on a scale of 0 to 10,
Okay.
with 10 being the most intense.
Okay, so if I'm at like an 8, I'm going to make a note of that.
Exactly. And then Then you start tapping.
Okay.
You tap with your fingertips on a series of points,
Huh?
starting with the side of the hand, then moving to your eyebrow,
Okay.
the front of your eye, under your nose, your chin, your collarbone, and under your arm.
So it's like you're tapping down your body,
You got it.
like a musical scale.
And as you tap on each point,
Okay.
you repeat a setup phrase that acknowledges the issue and affirms self-acceptance.
So for instance, if I was feeling overwhelmed by my to-do list.
You might say, even though I'm feeling completely swamped by my to-do list and this deadline, I deeply and completely accept myself.
So you're stating the problem, but you're also choosing to be kind to yourself in the midst of it.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about shifting from self-judgment to self-compassion.
And you're going to repeat that phrase. As you're tapping on each of those points.
Yes, you tap on each point about 5 to 7 times
Okay.
while repeating the setup phrase.
And then?
And as you tap, you can also add reminder phrases that are more specific to the issue.
So like overwhelmed to-do list.
Exactly.
Deadline pressure.
Yes. After you've completed one round of tapping,
Okay.
take a deep breath and re-rate the intensity of your feeling.
And hopefully it's gone down.
Hopefully, and if not, you simply repeat the process until you feel a shift.
This seems so simple, yet the science behind it is really powerful.
It really is. And one of the best things about EFT is that it's something you can do yourself.
Okay. So we talked about the basics of EFT. What about for deeper issues?
For deeper trauma work, it's generally best to work with a qualified EFT practitioner.
Okay, so that would be someone who is trained in EFT.
Exactly. They can help you identify the root causes of your trauma and create a personalized plan for you.
So if people are listening and they're like, okay, I want to try this on my own, what are some resources they can use?
There are tons of great books out there. The EFT Manual by Gary Craig is a classic. The Tapping Solution by Nick and Jessica Ortner is another really accessible option.
And I imagine there are tons of online resources, too.
There are. The EFT Universe website is fantastic, and the Association for Comprehensive Energy Psychology is another great resource.
Okay, perfect.
You can find articles, videos, and even directories of practitioners on those websites.
So we'll link all of that in the show notes so our listeners can easily find it.
That's a great idea.
Well, this has been a really fascinating deep dive.